I never expected to find a letter hidden in the wall of my new apartment. I moved to New York to disappear, plain and simple. After a relationship that unraveled like cheap thread and a job that drained the color from my days, I needed a restart. So when I stumbled on an affordable one-bedroom walk-up in an old Brooklyn brownstone, I didn't question it. It smelled faintly of dust and forgotten stories. The windows stuck. The radiator groaned like it had secrets. But it was mine. Or at least, it was empty enough for me to pretend it could be. I was unpacking that first afternoon alone, disoriented, and pretending I wasn't quietly falling apart when I noticed a small crack near the window frame in the bedroom. The wallpaper was peeling slightly, uneven, like something had shifted behind it. Curious, I tugged at the edge. It flaked away with surprising ease, revealing not rot or paint, but something soft. A folded piece of paper, yellowed with time. I hesitated. My heart picked up. I wasn't sure if I was trespassing on something sacred or stepping into something that didn't belong to me. But I opened it anyway. If you find this, please know I was here. I was scared. I was running from something. But I'm leaving hope behind for the next person. Don't give up. Emily, 1984. The room fell quiet. Something about the letter, its simplicity, its pain, its quiet courage hit me straight in the chest. Who was Emily? What was she running from? Why this wall? I didn't know it then, but Emily's voice would stay with me. Her words would become the first thread in a tapestry I hadn't meant to weave. And somehow, in this massive city full of strangers, it would be her that made me feel a little less alone. I reread the letter 5 times that night. The paper was soft around the edges, like it had been touched by time over and over again. I placed it on my nightstand like it was a relic. The next morning, over lukewarm coffee and the buzz of sirens outside, I sat with my journal open and wrote something I hadn't in months. I think I found a ghost who once felt like me. I didn't expect to meet anyone in this building, especially not someone my age. But New York has a way of surprising you, usually when you're wearing your worst hoodie and holding a trash bag full of broken hangers. I nearly walked into him in the hallway. Literally. "Whoa, sorry," he said, catching the door as I fumbled past him. He was tall, with dark hair that looked like it was always fighting gravity, and a coffee cup in one hand. He wore a Columbia hoodie and looked like he was coming back from a run or pretending to. I blinked. My bad. I wasn't watching. "You just moved into 3C, right?" he asked. His voice was warm, a little too familiar for a stranger. "Yeah. Is that how fast gossip spreads in this building?" He grinned. "Actually, I live right above you." I heard furniture scraping across the floor at 2 a.m. Pretty sure the ghosts weren't impressed. I laughed, despite myself. "I'm Arav," he said, holding out a hand. I hesitated a second too long before shaking it. "I'm just trying to figure things out." He smiled, like he understood. "Nice to meet you, just trying to figure things out." That night, I lay in bed listening to the sounds of the city, the low hum of distant traffic, the occasional shout from the street, a siren wailing somewhere in Manhattan. But mostly, I thought about Emily's letter. And now, Arav's smile. This place wasn't as quiet as I expected. It happened again 3 days later. I was rearranging the bookshelf in the living room, pushing aside some forgotten paperbacks the last tenant left behind, when I felt it. A hollow tap. My fingers ran along the back panel until I found a slight indentation. With some gentle pressure, it popped open like a secret drawer. Inside was another letter. Folded. Protected in wax paper. And written in a much messy hand. Emily. If you ever find this, I'm sorry I let you go. I should have stopped you. I should have told you the truth. I should have been braver. I still remember how you used to sing when you cooked, and how you always left one sock on the heater in winter. I remember everything. I think I'm still waiting for the day you come back. But if you don't, I just want you to know you mattered. You mattered. Daniel. Daniel. So there was someone else. Someone who loved her. Someone she left behind. The words blurred slightly as I read them again and again. It wasn't just about their story. It was about the one I was trying to rewrite for myself. And now I had more than one ghost. I had two. New York is full of stories. But most of them vanish before anyone notices. I used to believe that until now. With Emily's letter hidden behind wallpaper and Daniel's apology tucked behind a bookshelf, this apartment began to feel like it was waiting for someone to listen. I didn't tell anyone at first. Not my mom, not my old friends back home. They'd just ask if I was okay, and I'd have to lie. But I did tell Erav. He came down later that evening, holding 2 coffees and a bag of still warm bagels like it was a peace offering. Okay, he said as I showed him Daniel's letter. Now we're officially in a Nicholas Sparks novel. I smiled. Don't romanticize it. She was running. He let her go. He read the letter again, slower this time. But she left something behind. And so did he. We sat cross-legged on the floor, the record player in the corner humming static. Erav brushed dust from the paper and looked up at me. This is the kind of thing people write movies about. Hidden letters. Lost love. Except it's real, I whispered. And I couldn't help but wonder what kind of love gets buried in walls? And what kind of people still search for it? Over the next few days, I couldn't stop thinking about them. Emily. Daniel. Their fractured story. Their silence. I started searching more of the apartment like some part of me already knew there was more. And one night, just before the storm hit, I found it. There was a loose tile beneath the old radiator. I wouldn't have noticed it if I hadn't dropped my pen. But when I lifted it, there it was, a weathered envelope, brittle at the corners but still whole. I opened it carefully, heart thudding. Dear Daniel. I waited on the corner for an hour that night. You never came. Maybe you were scared. Maybe someone told you not to. Maybe you didn't want to face me. But I still remember the way your voice sounded when you read Neruda out loud. The way you smiled when the subway stalled like it was a secret between us. I wasn't angry. I was just tired of being the only one who stayed brave. If you ever come back here, if you ever find this, just know I'm not the same girl you left behind. But I loved you. I did. Emily. When I finished reading it aloud, Arav let out a breath beside me like he hadn't realized he'd been holding it. She was still hoping, he said. And he still regretted, I added. Their story wasn't finished. And neither was mine. The rooftop became our safe place. It started with a rainy Thursday night. The city below was loud with horns and sirens, but above it all up here it was quiet. The kind of quiet that feels like it's listening. Arav brought blankets and tea in mismatched mugs. I brought the letters. We didn't speak much. Just sat side by side, watching Brooklyn stretch beneath us like a map of forgotten promises. Eventually, he turned to me. Why did you really move here? I hesitated. Because I was tired of pretending I was okay, I said. Tired of shrinking myself. Of saying I'm fine when I wasn't. A pause. I was engaged, I added. He told me I was too sensitive for years. That my dreams were childish. When he left, I told everyone I was relieved, but the truth is, I was broken long before he walked out. Arav didn't flinch. He didn't interrupt. He just looked at me like I wasn't weak for saying it. Like I was strong for surviving it. I came to New York to disappear, I whispered. But now, I think I was really hoping to be found. He nodded, his voice soft. Me too. A week passed. We kept finding letters, small fragments left like breadcrumbs. Behind a light switch. Inside a hollow curtain rod. Emily's handwriting, sometimes hopeful, sometimes heartbroken. Daniel's letters, aching with guilt. But it was the letter beneath the floorboards that broke me. I found it while cleaning under the radiator. The floor creaked oddly when I stepped in one spot. Curiosity turned into obsession, and soon I was prying at warped wood with a screwdriver. There it was, tucked in a tiny wooden envelope box, sealed and tied with red string. I opened it slowly, hands trembling. To the one who finds this. Maybe you're a stranger. Maybe you're someone we once passed in the hallway. Or maybe, you're her. Emily. If it's you, I want you to know I loved you in every version of time. Even when I was too afraid to say it out loud. Even when I let you go. This apartment still holds your laugh in the walls. Still remembers the scent of your jasmine perfume. Still echoes when I say your name out loud. I hope someone finds this. Because love, real love, should never go unheard. Daniel. I pressed the paper to my chest, closing my eyes. Maybe we weren't just reading their story. Maybe we were finishing it. Or maybe, we were beginning our own. The night after we found the letter under the floorboards, I couldn't sleep. Emily's words haunted me. Daniel's too. They weren't characters anymore, they were people. With real fears. Real regrets. Real love. And now I couldn't stop thinking about my regrets. So I texted Arav. Are you awake? He replied instantly. Rooftop. We met in silence, wrapped in blankets. The city buzzed below, but up here, it felt like the world had slowed just for us. He looked at me, eyes softer than usual. You okay? No, I whispered. But I think that's progress. He smiled. Want to talk about it? I nodded, staring out at the fire escapes and flickering windows. I think I loved someone who never really saw me. And I kept trying to be smaller, quieter, more convenient just so he'd stay. Arav looked down. That's not love. I know that now, I said. But back then, it felt safer to hold on to a lie than to be alone. A pause. A breath. But since moving here, since the letters, this rooftop, I've started to remember who I used to be. The version of me I actually liked. His voice was low when he said, I like her too. I turned. You don't even know her yet. I know enough. I don't remember who leaned in first. Maybe it was both of us. But suddenly we were closer, his forehead brushing mine, his breath against my lips. He didn't kiss me. He waited. And in that stillness, I felt it. Not fear. Not pressure. Just possibility. I'm scared, I admitted. Me too, he said. And we stayed there like that, two broken people piecing themselves back together, one heartbeat at a time. The next clue didn't come as a letter. It came as a sound. I was organizing the closet when I knocked over a paint can and heard a soft clunk. Behind a stack of dusty boxes was a case, black, cracked, and old. Inside it, a vintage record player, along with a vinyl labeled For Emily Summer Mix 84. I plugged it in, unsure it would even work. The needle scratched. The speaker hissed. Then, soft music began to play, an old jazz song that sounded like it had been waiting years to be heard again. I sat on the floor, hugging my knees as the next song played, a quiet instrumental filled with longing. The last track was the one that broke me. A Hindi lullaby. Delicate. Beautiful. Raw. That night, I played it for Arav. He closed his eyes while it played, as if trying to hear the emotions between the notes. When it ended, he turned to me. Daniel loved her in every way he knew how, he said softly. Even when it wasn't enough, I added. We sat in silence for a long time. Maybe we were both asking the same thing without saying it. Could we be braver than they were? It started with a faded name scribbled on the back of the record sleeve. Property of Daniel Mehra, Apt 4B. My breath caught. I lived in 3C. Apartment 4B was just upstairs, 2 floors up. The one with the rusted lock and mailbox stuffed with forgotten menus. No one had lived there since I moved in. But someone had once. I told Arav. He blinked at the address, then looked up sharply. That's the one next to mine. We didn't waste time. Arav knocked on the super's door. After some persuasion and a promise that we weren't breaking into anything, he agreed to open the unit for 5 minutes only. The door creaked open like it hadn't moved in years. Inside, everything was dust and silence. The walls were bare. The furniture covered in sheets. But the air still felt full. We moved carefully. In the corner sat an old writing desk, a chipped mug, a dead plant. Taped to the underside of the drawer was a letter. My fingers trembled as I opened it. To whomever finds this. I tried to move on. I did. But some people leave echoes in places you can't paint over. Emily was that for me. I stayed in this apartment for too long, hoping one day she'd return. That she'd find the letters I left her. That I could fix what I broke. But life moved forward. And I didn't. So if you're reading this, maybe you're like me. Holding on to something that's already gone. Don't make the same mistake. Let go. But remember. Because love doesn't need to stay to mean something. Daniel. We didn't speak for a long time. The letter sat between us like a sigh from the past. When we left, I took one last look around. Not just to honor him, but because part of me knew. Daniel's chapter was finally closed. But ours was just beginning. Back in my apartment, I sat on the floor, surrounded by their letters. I could almost hear their voices in the stillness. Emily's resilience, Daniel's remorse. It was like the apartment had become a living thing. A keeper of hearts. A witness to love lost, and now, found. And suddenly, I knew what I had to do. I grabbed a clean sheet of paper. To the next girl who moves into 3C. This apartment has secrets, but don't be afraid. It gave me back pieces of myself I didn't know I'd lost. It introduced me to the voices of two people who never stopped loving, even in silence. Maybe it'll do the same for you. Leave something behind. A truth. A question. A hope. And maybe, one day, someone will find it, and feel a little less alone. The girl who listened to the walls. I folded the letter and slipped it behind the mirror near the door, the same mirror where I'd first seen my tired eyes and wondered if I'd made a mistake by moving here. Now, I saw someone stronger. Someone softer. Someone who believed in starting again. After everything, Emily's voice, Daniel's heartbreak, the echoes we uncovered, I realized something. I had spent so much time reading their words, trying to understand their story, that I hadn't written a single word of my own. Not really. So I sat down that night, the window open, the city breathing softly outside. And I began to write, not to a ghost, not to a stranger, but to me. Dear me. You've made it further than you think. You survived heartbreak, loneliness, silence. You carried pain that wasn't yours. You shrank yourself for someone else's comfort. But you are still here. You were never too much. You were just too honest for people who were scared of truth. You found this apartment and thought you were running away. But you were running toward yourself. You're allowed to let go now. A girl who finally came home to herself. I folded the letter and tucked it into the back of my closet, hidden beneath a loose floorboard I'd already pried open once. It wasn't meant for anyone else. It was a promise to me. 2 days later, I found another envelope. Tucked behind the stack of books I'd piled on the windowsill. The handwriting was his. To the girl who made old walls speak again. Dear you. You were a surprise. I didn't expect the girl in 3C to change anything. I thought you were just passing through another neighbor with a quiet stare and heavy boxes. But then you found the letter. Then you smiled at me on the stairs. Then you started reading their story out loud like it was ours. You made me remember how to feel again. Not the dramatic kind of love, but the quiet kind. The kind that makes silence feel safe. The kind that doesn't ask for permission to grow. If you're reading this, and you feel the same, meet me on the rooftop tonight. If not, I'll understand. I just had to say it. I didn't hesitate. That evening, I wore my softest sweater and carried a heart that had been broken and rebuilt too many times to count. And I climbed. The rooftop was bathed in golden light, the sun dipping behind Manhattan's jagged silhouette. The city buzzed below, but here, it was still. Arov stood near the edge, hands in his pockets, looking out over the skyline. He turned when he heard me. "You came." I nodded. "Of course I did." There was a pause. A breath between pages. "I meant every word," he said. "I know," I whispered. "So did I." And then, without hesitation, he stepped forward, brushing my hair behind my ear the way someone does when they've waited a long time to be that close. He kissed me. Soft. Slow. Real. We stayed on the rooftop until the first stars blinked into view, wrapped in each other and the possibility of something new. Not a fairy tale. Something better. Something true. Before going back inside, I left one final note in the old potted plant on the corner of the rooftop where someone else might find it one day. To whoever comes next. This place changed me. Not because of ghosts or secrets. But because I finally listened to the things I'd buried deep inside. There was a girl here once, who ran. And a boy who let her go. And there was me. And now there's us. Love doesn't always leave through the door. Sometimes, it waits in the walls. The Girl in 3C. If this story moved you even a little, please like or comment, it helps more people find it. Subscribe and turn on the bell so you never miss a love story whispered just for you. We're building something special here, a space for stories that speak to the soul. I'm so glad you're part of it.